Okay, hi everyone. Welcome and thanks for coming to our town hall today. Just you can disregard the chat. That was a mistake that I just sent to everyone. So, um, let me introduce myself first. So I'm Lisa Kitagawa. I represent District 48, which includes Ahui Manu and this area where the Kahalu'u Lo'i is. And so I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and thank you to all the presenters who are here as well. Just to give a little bit of history on this, is that last year we had our first community town hall related to the Kahalu'u Lo'i. And so some of you might have joined us last year. And that was really the start of this conversation with the community about what was going to be happening at this location. So what we wanted to do tonight, because there have been some questions from community about the updates and what's been going on, is we wanted to make sure that we provided the community with an update about the work that has been happening at the Kahalu'u Lo'i, and then also to provide an opportunity to community members to ask any questions that you might have, and to just make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page about what's happening in your area in Ahui Manu. So I wanted to first start off with introducing Senator Brenton Awa, who's on this Zoom as well. He was elected last year, and so he is new to representing this area because of redistricting. So Senator Kehokalole was with us last year during the town hall, and so now Senator Awa is here, and I'm not sure if he is still on, if he wants to just say a quick hello to everyone.
Hey, aloha. Sorry for arriving a couple minutes late. When we get a lot of rain, my basement floods, so I was up here trying to move everything. So sorry about that, but happy to be here and listen to the concerns.
Thanks so much. Okay, so we're gonna have a presentation done by a couple of people, and we are actually still waiting for one more individual. We had Randolph Lee from the State Historic Preservation Division was going to be joining us. So as he logs on, hopefully we'll be able to introduce him and have him provide any updates or answer questions. But I now just want to turn it over to Hi'iaka Jardine, who is with Kaiāulu or Kahalu'u, which is the organization that has been working on the Kahalu'u Lo'i. And she also has various team members with her, including Nick Beluzo, who was listed on the agenda that you got. So I'll turn it over to Hi'iaka, and she can introduce her team and provide everyone with an update.
Thanks, Lisa. Aloha, everyone. I'm Hi'iaka Jardine with Kaiāulu Kahalu'u, and I'll be kind of spearheading the presentation this evening, but I also wanted to introduce a few of my hui members who are here and are going to be jumping into the presentation. So I'll have you folks go first.
Hi, aloha, everybody. My name is Jen Nakamura, part of the hui, one of the co-founders, and I'll pass it on to the next person.
How's it? I'm Phil Kapu, part of the hui.
Aloha, I'm Amy Sato.
Aloha, my name is Luca Nicole Davis.
Thank you. And then Nick, if you want to just introduce yourself really quickly.
Aloha, I'm Nick Beluzo. I'm the director and principal archaeologist for the Honolulu office of ASM affiliates.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna share screen and start our mini presentation. Okay. So we wanted to just have this town hall just to update our neighbors. I know that it's been a year since the last time that we got to share with you folks and have a conversation. So a few things have kind of changed. And so that's why we're meeting here this evening. And I'm gonna pass it over to Jen.
Okay. If you guys don't mind, I'm gonna leave my camera off because I have plenty ukanas in my garage. So workday progress. Our organization, Kahalu'u Kahalu'u, has accomplished 12 work days and has worked with about 100 volunteers over that time of all those work days. We have had a UH botany plant survey, which Philip will talk about a little bit more in detail. And we have planted 10 native species in some of the areas that we've been working, and also have removed multiple invasive species. And everything we do, every time we go there, we're fortunate to have an archaeologist. Nick is always there, or somebody is always there to monitor and kind of observe and see what's going on. Organization updates. We have a new website. You can go to Kahalu'u.org. We have a blog on there with, updates, and you can go there to give us feedback. You can also submit feedback anonymously if you'd like through that website as well. And you can also reach us on our social media. We got together a few kupuna. So we sought some kupuna in our Kahalu'u neighborhood. And the ones that we ended up meeting with to create a kupuna council was Clifford Liu, Uncle Clifford Liu, Auntie Alice Hewitt, Donna Ho'okano, Pelekai, and Uncle Ed Ige. We had invited to the meeting. And then just to kind of update you folks, we've been on a pathway to creating a nonprofit organization. So our Hui actually is kind of guiding the process. We're doing a lot of research and work, and we had a couple of vision planning meetings to kind of work on that. So we're gearing towards that. And Kahalu'u Kahalu'u will remain a grassroots organization to continue to be a voice, as we originally had stated in our mission. And we'll be there to support this nonprofit continue their good works. So everybody will fill you in with everything else.
Okay, mahalo, Jen. And I guess I just wanted to share briefly in this creation of the new nonprofit. It will be its own entity, but as we envision it now, Kaiāulu Kahalu'u will still be in a supportive role, but totally separate entities. And we've created a name for it as a group. We've come up with the name Kana'aho Kahulimanu, and Kana'aho just kind of means like a sanctuary, but not just for people, right? Like for plants, for animals, for all the things, not just for people. And then Kahulimanu is kind of a play on the word Ahuimanu, but because the area is known to have native snails and that kind of thing, so it also incorporates the snails. Yeah. Okay, and so on this slide, what you're seeing is the pre-workday conditions and the current conditions. I took this photo yesterday on the right. So on the left, this is kind of that Huikelu as you're passing by, driving on Huikelu view. So on the left, you can see a lot of overgrowth. On the left side of the left photo, there's a lot of heliconia overgrowth. And then comparing it to the right, you can see that we removed pretty much all of that heliconia overgrowth. And that's where we've been planting a lot, Polynesian introduced and native plants. Okay. And then this is just a side profile. Again, on the left is pre-workday conditions, and on the right is as of yesterday. And you can see, we can kind of see the mountain now peeking over there and the right photo in the upper right-hand corner. And everything that we removed was invasive, other than the how, which is Polynesian introduced. But anytime that we've had a workday, we've tried our best to repurpose that how, either by people making cordage for school projects or just for their personal use. Or we had some people come and pick up the how. I guess they use them for implements and whatnot. And I know that last year we had said that to the best of our ability, we were going to try to chip whatever we cut and just place it right back where it was cut. But it was more difficult to find the chipper than we had thought it was going to be. I guess it's just not a common thing that's available to be rented. So what we had to do was basically fill up our trucks and do as much dump runs as possible. So nothing was left on site. And so the last time we met, I know that we had shared that we were still waiting for the State Historic Preservation Division to get that final language back to us on what our agreement would look like. So initially they gave us 90 days. So we had work days from August 2022 through November 2022, and we were doing 2 to 3 work days a month, depending on how many weekends were in that month. And after that 90-day period had ended, we were allotted a 2-year extension. So I'm going to take that from when our 90-day period ended. We're going to extend that 2 years into November of 2024. And what the language that's in that agreement with SHPD just states that we're allowed to do vegetation clearance, maintenance, and outplanting. We're not allowed more than 10 volunteers on site at a time. And it wasn't stated, but we've just included the archaeologist in that 10. We're also required to have $1 million general liability insurance, which we are getting through our fiscal sponsor, Pacific American Foundation. We're required to develop and implement a training and safety plan, which we did submit for SHPD's review. And we do utilize that safety training and plan prior to every workday, just to make sure that everybody's safe and using the tools correctly. We're also required to do minimal ground disturbance and mitigate any erosion. So anytime that we're cutting that heliconia against the slope there on the corner, we make sure that we're planting. So that's why you see all of the new plants there. Also required that anything that we cut has to be removed off-site or chipped. But, you know, as I shared, we weren't able to kind of get our hands on a chipper yet. So we just cut and we take off to Kapa'a Quarry dump. Also, we're not allowed to conduct commercial activity, any kind of fundraising activities on site, any kind of illegal activity, which, you know, drinking, those kind of things. Not allowed to maintain permanent residence or undertake site improvements unless approved by SHPD. So I know last year, like the lights, installing lights was a concern, installing gravel for a roadway or a parking lot, all those kind of things were concerns last year. So we're not allowed to do any of those things without prior approval. And since last year, those things have not really become a priority. Right now, we're just going to be focusing on that front area still, removing as much invasive, detrimental plants and trees as possible. Because a lot of big trees have fallen the last strong wind that we had. And so just kind of making sure that because we've opened the space, anything that's remaining is still safe for our community to come and enter into that area. Okay, and I'm going to pass it over to Phil.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, so one of the things we want for this place is to be like a place of learning for everybody. We want kids from elementary schools coming here all the way up to these college grad students we had come. So we had the Botany 444 lab come to do a vegetation survey of the area. We want to show the community that we're serious about what we're doing and that we know what's in there, we know what we're taking out, and we want to show you folks. So we divided the Lo'i area up into 4 sections, those 4 squares over there, and we did about 40 plots. What they do is make 2-meter by 2-meter random plots off the trail so that we can get a good baseline of the different types of plants that we find in there. So some quick information we found in their surveys, they found 18 overstory species. So that's like anything above 1.5 meters is counted as overstory species. In that, we found 1 native in those plots, 5 Polynesian introduced, and 13 non-native plants for those overstory species. For the understory, things under 1 meter, things like ferns and smaller plants like that, we measured 39 species, 5 native, 3 Polynesian introduced, and 31 non-native plants. So you can really see there's not a lot of natives there. It's really outcompeted by the non-native introduced plants that established there from neglect for all these years. Next slide. This is some pictures to show you folks of the botany lab doing their work. They got all their measuring instruments. They went around and measured trees at they call it DBH, diameter at breast height. That's just a standard they do when they're measuring things. Yeah, yeah, we had a, I think on the picture before showed everybody, but yeah, we had a good amount of people. So next slide, I'm gonna go into the just a couple of non-native and native plants. So in particular, I wanted to talk about the inkberry, which is over here on this left picture. Inkberry, things like inkberry, strawberry guava, haulekoa, they are allelopathic. And what that means is when their leaves drop in the ground, they release a chemical that doesn't let anything else grow. That's how come when you go into an inkberry forest or a strawberry guava forest or a haulekoa, like if you look up behind Kahalu'u High School, those mountains got only the haulekoa growing. That's because those leaves and stuff drop chemicals in the soil that only lets those plants grow. So that's something we want to take out, right? There's a lot of inkberry. There's a lot of haulekoa. There's some strawberry guava. Another plant found in the area. Actually found this doing my actual job. I work in conservation. I work for the Oahu Invasive Species Committee, and we found Myconia in there. So in that little picture, in between the two, that's what a Myconia plant looks like. It's extremely detrimental to our watershed. Myconia can one mature plant can have about 9 million seeds a year. So one of the pictures I wanted to show, if you look in the middle here, this is Tahiti. There's a giant landslide, and to show the scale of the landslide, there's a bulldozer right there on that path. Every tree in the back is a Myconia tree. So you really see the potential that tree has to take over the whole entire watershed. The roots are really shallow. And when the big rains come, like in places like Hawaii or in Tahiti in this case, or Ahui Manu, which we all know may get plenty of rain, these landslides happen and wipe the whole mountain out. All that mud goes into the ocean, covers the reef, we get brown water effect. So, this is all connected. One of the reasons we want to take care of this. And the last thing we'll talk about is Haulekoa. It's one of the top 100 most invasive species in the world. It's usually smaller in Hawaii. Like I said, if you look up behind Kahalu'u High School, all those mountains, the Mahinui Hills, is all Haulekoa. Rather skinny. If you see this picture of me right here standing next to a Haulekoa and Ahui Manu, they're huge. They're giant. Something about that Ahui Manu water is making them big, and soil. They're too big for their own good, and obviously they're snapping. This one snapped in the recent windstorm. It's pretty dangerous. We got kids playing around over there. People walk through there. It's definitely a liability. They're brought for cows to eat, and then the cows never wanted to eat them because they have like a little poisonous thing in them for mammals. And they really just take over the whole ground. Yeah, so then we could go to natives. I don't want to end on a bad note with non-natives. So I want to talk about some of the natives we found. These all were not found in the UH Bondi plant survey because that's like a random plot. These are things that we found that are like little gems, just to show the beauty of the Ahui Manu Lo'i. Recently, one of the what do you call them?
He's a top expert.
Yeah,
Botanical
botanical expert at Bishop Museum, our friend Miles Thomas, found a pretty rare fern that I personally have never seen in the wild. I work in the mountains every single day, all over the island. I've been hiking and doing things in the mountains for over 10 years now. I've never seen this plant, and we have it here in our Ahui Manu Lo'i. There's maybe less than 5 places on Oahu that you could find this plant. But Hawaiians would make baskets out of it. It's this little fern here on the left. You can see somebody's hand is behind it. That black stem is what they would make baskets and hats out of. That's how abundant it used to be, and now probably less than 5 places you can find it in the wild. It's called Eva Eva, Adianthum capitalis. Another plant we have back there that's really important is Papalakepau, native plant. As you can see in that little picture, the seeds are stuck on my coworker's hand there. Papalakepau is the bird catcher tree. This is important because in Ahuimanu they used to catch birds. That's kind of where some of the name comes from, bundle of birds and all of that. There's a bunch back there. It's a really important native to find. And the tree is the picture on the right. That's a picture of Papalakepau tree. And the last thing I want to talk about that we find in there is hala. Hala is very important. Make mats out of that. Make medicine out of the fruits. A lot of stories and legends and songs about Kahalu'u and Ahuimanu have the hala in it. That's how important our hala is. An old name for Kahalu'u, Ahuimanu, was Ka'ua Po'ai Hala, which turned to Ka'ua Po'ai Hale, which means the hala surrounding rain. If you live in Kahalu'u, we have that rain that circles around and gets you from all sides. And that's what that means, Ka'ua Po'ai Hala. Another important thing about hala, why it's important, why we have it in there, we want to keep it, and we want to make space, get rid of these non-natives.
And that's a picture right in the middle.
Oh yeah, okay, so that's it in the middle. That's a hala tree. Hala is hala in Hawaii. There's hala throughout all of Moana Nui Akea. There's hala in Asia. There's hala in Africa. There's two kinds of hala in the world. There's hala in Hawaii, and there's everything else. That's how special our hala is. It's genetically different from every other hala, and it's only found in our mountains. So that's some of the beauty of our little Lo'i area that we have, and why we want to get rid of some of these non-natives, and keep our natives having their space to live. Yeah, and we'll go over now to Luca to talk about some of the things we are replanting.
Yeah. Mahalo nui, Phil. As Hi'iaka showed us in the very beginning, we had removed all of that heliconia, and so we had a lot of exposed dirt and kind of like a mound. So we wanted to start planting back, and so we identified plants that were either historically found in the area. We knew that would do well with both the lots of rain that we get, and then also the intermittent watering that they will get, because we do not have people on site every day to give them care. So we need them to be able to hold on and survive until the next rains come and they can grow. So for example, like the Pohina is very hardy, so is the Akia, and they are great at spreading and kind of covering the grounds. We also want to call towards our hula and just bring in practitioners too, in that kind of like our thoughts of the future of where we want Ahuimanu and this Lo'i terraces to go. So bringing in like Palapalai and Ma'ohauhele as a flower and as a plant to not only bring in the forest and the ferns and the understory plants too, but also to calling to like Laka and our hula. And then also Mamaki as a wonderful tea to show in that medicine part as a healing place, that this is like that sanctuary of a space for all of us there. And then down at the bottom, we have Ai, which is our wonderful kind of like a wetland plant. They really like being in watered spaces. And although in the front area, we aren't working in any lo'i or any terraces right now, this place used to be home to a lot of our wetland species, like the alaiula, alaikea, the aio, the kodoa maoli. So this ai is that our initial planting in and our initial calling out, that we can have not only abundance of our native species and our native plant friends, but also looking into the future, being able to call back some of our native water bird friends. And that's not discounting all of our non-native friends that are here, like the Shama thrush. They love to follow us around as we're going through and weeding and catching all of the bugs that come up and, sing to us their songs and just really getting to know all of our native and non-native species within this space. So we're looking forward to continuing to build out this hillside and hope to see you guys there to put your hands in the ground with us. And I'll pass on to, I believe Amy is next.
Okay,
Yes,
hello. I just wanted to share real quick that all of these plants are also medicinal, so that they have multiple purposes. And okay, Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, if anybody has questions on plants, we're all happy to geek out with you guys. So all of the plants that Luca just shared have been planted by our volunteers. And like Hiyaka shared earlier, we've had 12 volunteer workdays since August last year. And it comes out to about 100 volunteers. Where a lot of those are repeat volunteers. Just to give a little bit of a gauge, every time we have a work day, it's at least half or more are returning folks. So that's a great thing to see, is people are coming back and volunteering with us because they're enjoying their time. And we almost always have a handful of new volunteers. That's also great to see in any kind of restoration project. That just means that we're connecting with more and more of the community. And I just want to say that our goal for this initial phase of 6 months to a year has always been to build stronger relationships with especially our direct Ohui Manu community. So one of our favorite things every time at our work days is having the dogs visit and our neighbors visit, just getting to know the community. Even if you haven't had a chance to come and volunteer, that's our purpose, is just to be present and meet everybody. We've had neighbors drop off fruits and food, and so thankful for all of the people that have come, volunteers and just visitors that pop in and talk story. Uncle Clifford came to just tell us stories one day, and that was great. So if you haven't made it, it's an open door. Please just hop in. And I also want to mention that this project, we're always thinking about the process and not just the goals. So we're taking our time. Our work days aren't like, okay, let's get this done. It's about being present. It's about learning. It's about meeting new people and connecting with this special place. My master's thesis was actually in this kind of thing at UH Manoa, about looking at restoration project and how important it is to involve the community, involve the culture, make sure it's place-based. I actually encouraged a post-event survey to be given out to volunteers, so we get a little feedback from our volunteers. I just wanted to share a few highlights from these post-event surveys. One thing that I wanted to share is some of the activities that people have enjoyed the most. And just to share the top 5 from high to low. So the highest enjoyed activity has been Hawaii Protocol, which is great to see and hear. We're always making sure we open and close with the proper protocols, chanting, making sure everyone's in the right headspace. Number 2 highest was meeting new people and working towards a common goal. Number 3 was hearing stories about the place, also learning place names was the next one. So yeah, we tell stories, ka'ao, mo'olelo, make sure everybody knows the places, peaks, the places that we're looking at. And then finally, removing and repurposing non-native plants. So one of the quotes from the post-event survey was, it was very special preparing and washing the hau cordage. And I like the cultural element to the work, learning more than conservation. So these are direct quotes from some of our volunteers. And you can see some of the photos here. On the bottom, we have some pictures of folks processing the hau, the hibiscus that's quite growing abundantly in Ohui Manu, and we have to cut a lot down. I want to make sure that people know what this plant is. Number one, it's native, but it has qualities that can grow a little out of control if you're not using and repurposing like how we're doing. So there's folks making lei with it, cordage, and just a few more quotes because it's better to hear straight from the volunteers. One of it is, before my mind could only see the weeds and it made my heart sad. Now I see what this space can be and the life that can come back to the stream and Lo'i. And lastly, it felt good to remove invasive species and imagine the space as a native and agricultural place again. I loved being in community to malama the area and learned a lot too. So mahalo to everybody that's been a part of our efforts so far. Okay, and then I'm going to pass to Nick.
I thank you for that. So as I mentioned before, I'm the director and senior archaeologist for ASM affiliates. I also serve on the state Historic Places Review Board. So I've had the fortune to work in a lot of different places and see a lot of different, similar and dissimilar sites like this. So part of the reason for my presence there is it is a significant archaeological site. It's placed on the National Register of Historic Places. And, part of Shifty's responsibility and our responsibility is to make sure that these resources aren't damaged in any way through our presence in the space. Generally, I show up to every workday. If I'm not able to make it, then I send somebody from my staff. ASM, myself, the rest of the staff are very pleased to support this. We don't charge for our services. We think grassroots efforts like this are really the path forward, and we're happy to use our own weird skill set to support that. So as you can see from the map here, this is based on a University of Hawaii field school that was done in 1973, where under the direction of a graduate student, I believe, they went out and mapped out a lot of things, as you'll see, and we can zoom in to this a little bit. And there's a map of terraces, of enclosures, of platforms all the way up this valley. I've been through there. They are in, still in very good condition, and still, what makes this special, this area, is that it's just part of this kind of integrated social ecological system where, yeah, the archaeology is a part of it. That's why I'm there, but it's really about how the archaeological resources connect with the water, with the birds, with the plants, and those relationships between those. I've been to lots of Lo'i sites that go up in the valley where there is no more water running, or where it's only palikoa. And it's not to diminish those sites or say they aren't worthy of protection or restoration, but we're looking at here is something where those kind of fragments, those things that make it a cultural landscape, are maybe diminished, maybe impacted, but they're still there. They're still visible. The water is still there. The birds are still there. Yes, there's invasive plants there, but there's also the native plants, the food plants that are still there. Like I said, I feel very fortunate to help support this project, to help support the work that is going on here. We will continue to support that in the foreseeable future. I'm excited to see what comes, and I think this really, I hope, is a model for other similar projects elsewhere on Oahu and throughout Hawaii. Thank you.
We just threw these pictures in last minute because we know a lot of the community hasn't really ever seen a terrace Lo'i before, and we were really fortunate to go to Kauai a few months ago and go to Limahuli Gardens, where they restored a few of their terraces theirs also go up into the back of the mountain, but these couple of slides right here show you what our Lo'i is supposed to look like in a huimanu. Kind of. This is a little bit different than how we're kind of envisioning it, but this is technically how it would work, where you have the Lo'i in terraced rock form like this, with kalo, water going through, going down to the next Lo'i, and the next Lo'i, and the next Lo'i. If you go to the next slide, this is a kind of view on the top. So you kind of leave some of them fallow, and let it rejuvenate, and then you'd open them up and put kalo in there again. But just so some of the community members can see the potential. I know there's a lot of concern about cutting things down and exposing things, but this what would look like in a sense, not exactly, but.
And to make a note that this is for Limahuli, again, this isn't exactly what it's gonna look like in a huimanu, but just to help you envision. All around this Lo'i terrace, where it's actually producing food for the community, and helping the ecological movements of the stream, we also see reforestation all around Limahuli. So up above, you can't really see it, but they all have beautiful native forests with super rare things that we also see in a huimanu. A lot of non-native plants too, and realistically, that's what we're probably gonna see. So just to keep in mind that, it doesn't mean in a Western sense that we're gonna cut everything down and create just crops of farming.
Yeah.
The goal is to be more of an agroforestry system where there's a lot of native plants all around. Yeah.
Okay, mahalo everyone. So that's the end of our presentation for today. And I know that we shared about our website at the beginning. So our website is www.kaiāulu.org. Can somebody just put that in the chat for our attendees, please? And then we still have the same email address there. You can still find us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Kahalu'u. And we're always available for questions or just to talk story. And I'm gonna turn time over back to Lisa to facilitate Q&A.
Could we just add one thing before we close up?
Sure.
In one of our conversations, Philip shared with our Hui core some information about some plants that actually could damage soils. And I think that that's something to keep in mind. I don't know if Philip would like to just kind of share how that works, but I was surprised, and I kind of grew up with plants. So when you shared that, that could be a risk to a lot of, things around that area, right?
Yeah, that was kind of the inkberry, the allelopathic stuff that releases chemicals. A lot of the stuff we have to take out has things that release those chemicals into the soil and damage the soil. But using ike kupuna and stuff, we know how to rejuvenate the soil by putting kukui leaves and branches in there and whatnot, and old how and sugar cane. There's all these methods of rejuvenating the soil, but it is damaged from all those chemicals for a lot of, maybe 100 years of neglect of letting those things grow in there. We got to deal with too. So yeah. Mahalo.
Okay, mahalo. I'll turn it over to you, Lisa, for our Q&A.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Hi'iaka and team, for that great presentation and just the update on all the work that's been happening, and for just, doing the work with the volunteers, but also making sure that you sharing that with the community today is really important. So we're going to start our question and answer. Unfortunately, it looks like Randolph from Shipti was not able to make it tonight. So if there's any specific questions for Shipti, myself or Hi'iaka can take that back to Randolph and we can get the answers for you. So if you want, you can put your question in the chat, or you can raise your hand on the Zoom and we can call on you if you have a question. I did notice that Ed had a question about if it's possible to change the number of volunteers from 10 volunteers to having it with 10 cars. That's something that we would need to talk with Shifty, I think, because that is, I believe, written in the agreement. Is that correct, Ki'iaka?
Yeah, so our agreement specifically says limited to 10 volunteers. But when we do have work days, I tell all the volunteers to park on the Mackay side of the street so that, there can be a single traffic flow, but there are certain times when we need to load up the trucks to dump the rubbish or the vegetation at Kapa'a Quarry. So we'll put the cones out, we'll have the truck kind of back in as much as possible into that little driveway, load up and then move out and try to keep that one pathway clear for cars to go through, but we can definitely improve on that.
Great, thanks so much for that. So does anyone have a question? You can just raise your hand. I can see the whole screen. So if people have questions, let us know. And of course, I think what's also great is if your neighbors were not able to make it tonight, because I think there are people who were here last year who are not here tonight. Reach out to Hi'iaka or anyone on her team. You can reach out to that email they shared, Kahalu'u@gmail.com, and we are recording tonight's presentation. So I'm sure Hi'iaka would be willing to share the wonderful presentation that they did so that your neighbors and the community members and Ahui Manu who might be interested would be able to get all of this great information. So please reach out to that email address if you know people who were not able to make it tonight. Yeah, and then I see that there's a question, just if this presentation could be made available somewhere for the community. And I don't know if this is something, Hi'iaka, that you might want to put on your website as informational, or how would you like to do that? Because we can help, share that too with the community who wasn't able to attend.
Yeah, sure. So last year when I was sent the recording, I uploaded it to YouTube, but it was unlisted. So you had to have the link in order to view it. You couldn't search on YouTube, but I'll probably upload it to YouTube and then see if I could link it to our website somehow and people can share that way. Also last year, once I got the list of attendees, I emailed that link to everybody. So I'll do that again.
Great, thanks so much. Okay, does anyone have a question? Nope, I don't see any questions. You guys did a great job answering all the questions that people might have had. So I'm just gonna kind of close this off if we don't have any questions, but feel free to reach out to Hi'iaka and anyone on her team who shared information tonight. Their email was Kahalu'u@gmail.com. They have their website too, which is they're listed in the chat box, but it's www.kaiāulu'okahalu'u.org. And so you can contact them through that as well. And once you can tell your neighbors that weren't able to make it. Once we get this recording all set up, Hi'iaka will send an email out to everyone who's on this listserv who attended the first meeting, just so that they can get an update about it. Yes, Hi'iaka.
Yeah, so I see Kaiāulu asking a question in the chat. How are we addressing visitors and hikers to the Lo'i? So when we do have work days, there are a lot of hikers that approach us and will kind of ask us where the trailhead is. I usually ask Amy and Phil to have a conversation with them, and we just kind of let them know it's not really a designated hiking trail. And these are the potential risks of entering this area, but it is a public space. It's just not, it's not really safe because it rains a lot of things fall in the forest. The trail is not maintained very well. So we try our best to educate them so that they're making an informed decision before walking into that space.
Yeah, great question. And then I also just wanted to bring up that a community member had asked about how we can make it so there maybe is information that this is a historic preservation site. And so that's something that I can reach out to Shifty about to see, is it possible to put signage up that just, shows people that it is a historic preservation site, and that hopefully will have people think maybe, you know, a little more deeply about whether or not they want to just go hiking and treat it like a regular hiking trail, since it is a designated preservation space. So we'll kind of see where we can get with that conversation with Shippi and see if that's possible. And so we can keep the group updated about that as well. So is there any other questions? I don't want to miss any, because in case they're in the chat.
I don't see any more in the chat.
Okay, great. So if there is no more questions, you know how to reach the group. You can always reach out to myself as well, or to Senator Awa's office. So my email is repkitagawa@capital.hawaii.gov, and Senator's is Senator Awa, or Sen Awa, SENAWA @capital.hawaii.gov. So reach out to either one of us, and we can, you know, answer any questions you might have. And we just want to thank you again for attending tonight's presentation and for being interested in this, and you know, share that with your neighbors as well if they have questions, to reach out as well. So thank you everyone so much, and have a great evening, and we will see you all at the next town hall we do to inform and update all of you. Thanks so much. Good night, everyone.
Mahalo, Lisa. Mahalo,
Mahalo.
everyone.
Right.
Lisa, thanks for hosting.
Oh, thanks so much, Senator.
And then Jacob, mahalo for being here too with the Zoom.
No problem. And I'll send this out to you. Take care.
Thank you.